I mean, this is one of the best games you're ever going to see, probably.
Yeah.
And so many different storylines. But I guess what I came away with was even though they lost to a division team. Certainly, this makes the playoff picture a little murkier. I still came away impressed with what I saw from the Browns today.
Absolutely 100%. I mean, this could have obviously gone either way. It was a bizarre game, the way that Lamar comes storming out of the locker room from nowhere. It reminded me of that year that, remember when Ben Roethlisberger came storming out of the locker room and won the game. But uh, this was an incredible game. I heard the announcer saying that it was like the game of the year, and it was on national television. And I'm sure people are coming away with this with a really great feeling about both teams. But I mean, think about, I would imagine that most people throughout the country feel pretty good about Baker Mayfield as the Browns quarterback of the future.
Yeah, I mean, let's just start there with Baker. I think the most impressive thing was he had the interception streak come to an end. And look, that was going to happen eventually, right? He had the interception streak come to an end, but he just kind of kept leading this team back again and again and again. And then even after Lamar made that great play coming back out of the locker room on that fourth down, Baker still leads this team down to tie the football game. And it really felt like, the team that had the ball last, I know technically that was the Browns with 2 seconds left. It just really felt like the team that had the ball last was going to win this football game. And that's kind of a credit to Baker in this offense.
Yeah, you can't say enough about what Baker Mayfield did. And of course, he was so mad at himself for that interception. As you mentioned, it snapped a streak of 187 passes without an interception, 5 straight games without one, protecting the ball. He was very mad at himself about that. He hates when he does that. And he was determined. He was going to strap the team on his back and he was going to bring it back. He scored touchdowns on 3 straight drives after that, including the one where he ran and slid into the end zone himself and just fired that ball with gusto, just into the end zone there. And it was quite a performance by Baker Mayfield. He was not going to be denied, but lo and behold, there comes Lamar trot, trotting out to be the hero. And those guys, they considered this to be a must-win game for them because they want to get back to the playoffs. We're talking about the league MVP in Lamar Jackson. Now people have seemed to sort of forget that about him this year, but that's the league MVP that they just lost to. So there's really not a whole lot of shame in that. But this was quite a comeback effort from the Browns, and I think that it will serve them well as they move forward into a couple tough games that they still have left the rest of this season and into the playoffs. I mean, if you get into a game like this in the playoffs, they're going to be so determined to finish it this time that, this is going to stick in their craw and they are not going to want to have this feeling again.
Yeah, I mean, this was sort of an important step for this team, I thought, to go toe to toe with a playoff team. Last week against Tennessee, it was like, okay, the Browns went out and they beat a good team, but it was like they they just built that huge lead, and certainly not to take away from that, right? That's great, but we haven't seen them in a game like this, and especially against a team like Baltimore. We haven't seen them in a game where they had to kind of punch and counter punch, and they were down 14 twice in the second half, and they managed to they managed to get back into it. We got to see a little analytics fun from Kevin Stefanski going for two to go down after they had scored down 14. So, I just think this was something we needed to see from this football team. And certainly, I think for Browns fans and for the Browns themselves, they would have loved to have seen it in a win. But we saw a team that was resilient, that went up against a division foe, an AFC North foe, and played a really great game against them. Now, the defense is an issue, but we've known that all season long. That's not new information. The defense was a problem today. But we saw this team go toe-to-toe with a team that probably is going to be in the playoffs now with the schedule that Baltimore has left. This, I think, was a positive step for this team.
Yeah, I think so. And as the Browns move forward, they should get Denzel Ward back for, pretty soon. And they might even have Ronnie Harrison back by the last game and then into the playoffs. So they're going to have some help. This was a tough team to try to beat and to slow down without some of your top guys. And really, when you look at the whole entire secondary, I mean, it's kind of a makeshift secondary. So when you take Ronnie and Denzel out of there, you're really starting to get into your depth a little bit, and then it really is very, very difficult. But you know, I really do think that, yeah, from a run defense standpoint, this was it was not a good matchup. It was obviously not a good matchup. I mean, they rushed for 231 yards. Lamar did not have to do all that much with his arm, although oddly enough, and I led my initial game story with this, is the fact that he crushed them with his legs most of the game. It was his arm, you know, that did in the end with, you know, with that 44-yard touchdown pass that he had coming out of the locker room. That was such a bizarre set of circumstances. It was really unbelievable. I think you're right. I think that they learned some things in this game that they might win a playoff game that they wouldn't have won had they not gone through an intense emotional game like this that had playoff intensity, because that's what this was. That's exactly what a playoff game is going to feel like. And you know what? Donovan Peoples Jones got to feel it. Some of these younger players got to see what it was like. Ronnie Harrison Bryant got to see what it was like in that kind of an intense football game. And when it comes to the playoffs, because this team's going to the playoffs, and they're going to have to beat a team like that in the first round if they're going to want to advance. And now I think they're going to be better equipped to do it.